Hi guys, we're going to take a few minutes to talk about spreadsheets, paperwork, and health records. This is our spreadsheet. We keep all CVRR information on it. That's for cats and dogs. When you do an adoption, or even actually before you do an adoption, please look for your animal. Make sure your animal has an L number, their name, and all the information filled in ahead of time. Make sure they have a microchip and that their vaccines are age appropriate. If you don't have access or you don't know how to access this spreadsheet and you are fostering, please let us know and we will give you access to this, because the more you are in it and you can see it, the more our request for paperwork makes sense. For example, the top of the column, we have alter dates, intake, and approximate ages. Lake Forest will not spay or neuter any of our pets under the age of 16 weeks. So we have to be mindful of how old they are before we make appointments. Intake paperwork, we need to know where our animals are coming from for reports we fill out at the end of the year, as well as we need to know if they have been strays and or still on stray hold, because we can't post an animal that is on stray hold. That's to protect us as well as to protect the shelter. Sorry, my computer screen decides to go off while I'm making a video. When we get intake paperwork from a shelter, for example, even from an individual, they let us know if the animal has been altered. So if you see AOI, that means altered on intake. Approximate date of birth, most of the time intake paperwork will give an approximate age. So your date of birth might just be something generic, or we will make up something such as December 1st. We always put like the first day if we know we're making it up. Because if you are looking at your health record and it has an age and you don't remember when you wrote that down, now you don't know how old your animal is. But if you have an approximate date of birth, you now have a way to do some math. Description is always helpful. Now, I wrote Shih Tzu puppy earlier. What I should have done was I should have written white and brown, because that's a little more descriptive. White and brown Shih Tzu. So note to self, I will do that. Tan and white puppy is way more descriptive than just plain old Shih Tzu. While the breed is very helpful, the coloring would also be there to assist. If you see green, it means we've not received payment for an adoption or it has not been deposited yet. These two columns are reserved for information on the adopters. Foster names, this helps us decide who we need to contact if we're missing information. And then microchips. These should always be full if we have animals in our care. Please make sure you're contacting the people on the microchip list to help you get a microchip. No animal is to leave our care without a microchip. This part of the document involves vaccinations. If you see red, it means they're behind in vaccinations or they're important that you need to pay attention to. For example, my Shih Tzu puppies would have been red, except they've already been adopted and they're not old enough to have rabies, for example. The last is additional medical notes, and that's anytime we deworm or treat them for something, like treat it for parvo, for example, I would enter that for additional medical notes. And we ask that fosters are keeping up with that, because that animal's in your care. You know when you're giving dewormer, you know when you're giving vaccinations or they're receiving vaccinations. And if you want us to enter it, all you have to do is ask and send us the dates and the names. But this is really easy to access and really easy to maneuver. And before we continue, the first password of the video is vaccinate. Your first password is vaccinate. So this leads us to the health record. Here's a health record, for example, for Tinley. She's one of my white and brown Shih Tzu puppies. If you'll notice, I have her name, her L number, her breed, her coloring. She's a female. If she were already altered, I would have F/S for female/spade. That lets the owner know she's already been altered. There's another way to handle that I'll talk about in a second. Approximate date of birth and her microchip. Usually what I do is I take the actual microchip sticker and stick it here. But I did this at work and I don't have that, so I didn't do that. The dates I've given are Albon, dewormer of panicure and pyrantel or pyrantel, however you want to pronounce that. I gave her flea and tick, her 2 vaccines. I wrote that she needs another in 2 to 4 weeks. Because we gave it, I wrote CVRR. If someone else had given it, I would have written there. Like if she had gotten a rabies at Riverside, I would have written that. And this is where the detail, this is where it's very helpful, because most of the time adopters are so excited, they don't pay attention to pretty much anything you tell them. This is also why we need the running records in the background, because undoubtedly somebody's going to ask in the next couple of months something that they should already have in their hands. Tinley was treated for parvo at Riverside. I have instructions on how to give her Albon and her Metro, because I'm sending her home with a couple of doses left. And then she needs spay and rabies in August. I have not set that up with them because their calendar has not opened yet. If it was open and I had an appointment, I would say spay on August 12th. And I would make sure they know it. I would send them an email, and I would also follow up with a reminder. We have a calendar in the background as well. So if we need appointments and we make those appointments, we put them on the calendar, on our Google Calendar, and we send reminders. If your animal needs to be altered, let's make sure we get those appointments. Here's another example, Chowder. Do you see how Chowder has M/N? That means he's a male and he's neutered already. All the other stuff is the same. When he was dewormed, what his prevention was, when he had vaccines, what he needs. He needs rabies and about the approximate date. And we always put our name, even though I did not do that right there, but put our name so that if we have to pull records up and we know who filled them out, we now have a paper trail of who to ask. Typically, it's the fosters who fill these out, but every now and then, someone else does an adoption, and we might have a question about the health record. But if he's been neutered, I let the people know that he was altered at Riverside in case there's a question. They can call or I can call. One of the things we discussed is if you have a litter of puppies, that we make the appointments before those litters leave if you don't have them spayed and neutered already. So that's one of the things we are considering, and you would have those dates already there, or you would have the people meet you at the vet for pickup. So those things are something we're considering. So password number 2 actually is a phrase. Alter your pets. Alter your pets. Password number 2. So I appreciate you guys watching this. If you have any questions about health records, if you have any questions about scanning paperwork and sending it in, or if you have any questions about how to maneuver and manipulate the spreadsheet, once you learn it, it really is a piece of cake. Don't let it be intimidating. We are happy to help. And we can meet one-on-one or in groups. We can meet for coffee or any other type of beverage. So just give us a call and we're happy to be there. Thanks a lot.